When my siblings showed up with tears in their eyes saying, "I'm sorry," I almost believed them. But their apology wasn't for love. It was for money. What they didn't know? I had already set the trap that would expose them to everyone. It was a quiet Sunday morning when the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something in me knew who it would be. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. A pause, then a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Hey, it's me. I know it's been a long time." I'm sorry, my heart stopped. It was Ethan, my older brother. The same brother who had abandoned me when times were hard, who had mocked me for being the weak one, who hadn't even bothered to visit Mom during her worst days. And now he was calling with an apology? For a second, I almost believed it. After all, we were family. And Mom, God bless her, always told me, no matter what, blood is blood. But something in Ethan's voice felt rehearsed, too smooth, too perfectly timed, especially now with Mom's health declining and the inheritance discussions quietly starting in the background. "Why now?" I asked softly. Ethan sighed as if burdened. "Because life's too short to hold grudges. I want us to be close again." For Mom, I wanted to believe him. I really did. But deep down, something whispered, this isn't about love. This is about money. And I promised myself I wasn't going to be fooled. Would you trust an estranged family member suddenly apologizing right before an inheritance is at stake? Why or why not? The following week, Ethan showed up at Mom's house. I wasn't expecting him to actually follow through. When I opened the door and saw him standing there holding a bouquet of flowers that looked too expensive to be sincere, I froze. "Hey," he said, forcing a smile. "You look good." It had been almost 5 years since we'd last stood face to face. 5 years since his words had cut deeper than any knife. "You'll never amount to anything. You're just a burden." Now suddenly he was acting like none of that ever happened. I let him inside, mostly for Mom's sake. She was in her bedroom, resting, her breathing weaker these days. She didn't know about his call. She didn't know about the storm rising inside me. When Mom saw him, her eyes welled up with tears. "Ethan, my boy," she whispered, reaching for his hand. He leaned down, hugging her with practiced tenderness. For her, the years of betrayal seemed to vanish in an instant. That was the thing about Mom. She forgave too easily. As they talked, I stood quietly in the corner, watching. Ethan laughed too loudly, complimented too quickly, nodded too eagerly. His act was flawless. To anyone else, it might have seemed genuine, but I knew him too well. Every glance he threw my way carried a silent message. Stay quiet. Don't ruin this for me. Later that evening, after Mom had drifted off to sleep, Ethan cornered me in the kitchen. "You're not still mad, are you?" he asked, pouring himself a glass of wine like he owned the place. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I studied him, the expensive watch on his wrist, the smug confidence in his posture. He wasn't here for reconciliation. He was here for what came after Mom. "You hurt me," I finally said, "and you hurt her. You left when she needed you most." His smile didn't falter. "People change. I'm here now. That's what matters, right?" But there was something cold in his eyes, something that told me his words were nothing but smoke. That night, as I lay awake, I thought about Mom's fragile smile when she saw him. She believed in his apology. She wanted peace in her last days. But I knew better. This wasn't peace. It was performance. And if Ethan thought I would stand by while he manipulated her, while he maneuvered himself into the center of her will, he was sorely mistaken. I decided then, if he wanted to play games, I would play smarter. Because forgiveness may heal wounds, but vigilance prevents new ones. And I wasn't going to let him steal what Mom wanted to leave behind. If you were in the narrator's place, would you confront Ethan immediately about his motives? Or stay quiet and watch him? Why? The following days were almost unbearable. Ethan transformed himself into the perfect son, the one who visited every morning with fresh flowers, the one who cooked Mom's favorite meals, the one who held her hand and read aloud when her eyes grew too tired. To anyone watching, it would look like devotion. But to me, it was theater. He had always been good at pretending. When we were kids, he could lie straight to Dad's face and still get a pat on the head. I was always the one who got caught, the one scolded. Ethan knew how to twist the truth until it bent into something useful for him. Now he was doing the same thing with Mom. One afternoon, as I walked into the living room, I overheard him speaking softly to her. "Mom, I know I made mistakes, but I want to make things right. I want to be here for you." Her frail hand covered his. "Oh, Ethan, that's all I've ever wanted, for you two to be close again." I felt my chest tighten. Her words weren't meant to wound me, but they did. All my years of loyalty, all the nights I stayed by her side while she was sick, all the sacrifices I'd made, erased by his sudden reappearance and a few carefully chosen words. That night, while helping her to bed, she whispered, "I think he's really changed." I forced a smile. Maybe. But inside, I screamed. Because I had seen the way Ethan's eyes lingered on the folder, tucked beneath the coffee table, the one with Mom's legal documents. I had noticed how quickly he asked about the lawyer's visits, the way he offered to help organize her paperwork. It wasn't love he was chasing. It was leverage. One evening, I found him alone in Mom's study, the lamp casting long shadows across the walls. Papers were spread across the desk. He startled when I walked in. "Just organizing for Mom," he said too quickly, shoving a file shut. I raised an eyebrow. "Funny, she didn't ask you to." He smirked, his mask slipping for just a second. "Relax, I'm just trying to help. Isn't that what you want?" I didn't answer. Instead, I filed that moment away, adding it to the growing list of reasons not to trust him. Ethan was laying it on thick, and Mom was eating it up. Every fake smile, every hollow apology, every insincere laugh, it was working. But if he thought I was blind, he was wrong. Because while he was busy playing the role of the redeemed son, I was quietly preparing for the day his mask would slip completely. And when it did, I'd be ready. This wasn't just about inheritance anymore. This was about protecting Mom from the one person who claimed to love her the most, yet wanted to use her the worst, and I wasn't going to lose. Do you think the mother is being naive and trusting Ethan so quickly, or is she simply clinging to hope? What would you do in her place? It started small, like cracks in a window pane. At first, they were invisible to anyone who wasn't looking closely, but I was looking. I had to. One morning, while I was making breakfast, Mom casually mentioned something that made me freeze mid-step. Ethan told me you've been a bit cold to him. He said he's trying so hard to make amends, but you won't give him a chance. I set down the pan a little harder than I meant to. Did he? She gave me a tired look, her voice soft. He's changed, sweetheart. I don't want you to push him away. I bit my tongue until the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. How clever of him. By painting himself as the victim, he made me look like the bitter sibling who couldn't forgive. It was happening again, the same manipulation that had worked on Dad all those years ago. Only this time, the stakes were so much higher. That evening, I stepped out into the garden needing air. Mrs. Langley, our longtime neighbor, leaned over the fence, her eyes darting toward the house. You should be careful, she whispered. I frowned. What do you mean? She lowered her voice even more. I saw Ethan at the lawyer's office downtown last week. He didn't see me, but I know it was him. A chill ran down my spine. Are you sure? As sure as I'm standing here. She glanced toward the windows. Be careful, dear. Snakes don't hiss before they strike. I thanked her, but my mind was already racing. Why would Ethan meet with a lawyer? Mom's estate wasn't even finalized yet, unless... That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint creaks of the old house. Somewhere in the silence, I thought I heard footsteps, soft, deliberate, moving toward the study. I sat up, heart pounding. For a moment, I considered confronting him right then and there, catching him red-handed, exposing his lies in front of Mom. But no, if I acted too soon, he'd twist it again, make me look paranoid. I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. The next morning, Mom was all smiles. Ethan is taking me to lunch today. Isn't that nice? I forced a nod, though my stomach churned. I watched them leave, Ethan holding her arm with exaggerated gentleness, his smile as polished as glass. When the door shut, I exhaled and walked straight to the study. My hands trembled as I sifted through the desk, searching for something, anything that could explain what he was up to. Then I saw it. A document partially tucked beneath a pile of letters, a copy of Mom's will. And on the margin, faintly penciled in Ethan's handwriting, were notes, edits, as if he were planning to rewrite her life's legacy to suit his own desires. My blood ran cold. He wasn't just pretending, he was plotting. And if I didn't stop him soon, he'd succeed. If you were in the narrator's shoes, would you confront Ethan immediately about the will or wait and gather more proof? Why? Once I held that copy of the will in my hands, everything shifted. The apology wasn't just fake, it was a weapon, and Ethan was sharpening it against me. But he'd underestimated me. He thought I was the same sibling who used to shrink under his shadow, who would let him lie and manipulate his way into Mom's favor. He was wrong. That night, I sat at the kitchen table long after Mom had gone to bed. The copy of the will lay in front of me, alongside a notebook where I scribbled ideas. If I confronted him now, he'd deny it. If I told Mom, he'd twist it. No, the only way to beat him was to let him believe he was winning, until his own lies trapped him. The idea formed slowly, then sharpened like a blade. I would set him up. The next morning, I acted normal. I greeted him cheerfully, even thanked him for taking Mom out so often. His eyes narrowed for a fraction of a second before he smiled, but I caught it. He was suspicious. Good. Let him wonder. Over the next few days, I pretended to soften. I laughed at his jokes, listened to his stories, even brought up old memories as if we were truly reconnecting. To anyone watching, including Mom, it looked like his apology had worked. But behind the scenes, I was preparing. I borrowed a small voice recorder from a friend at work, one that could slip easily into a pocket or drawer. I also reached out to Mr. Harrison, Mom's longtime lawyer, under the guise of understanding Mom's estate better. Without giving too much away, I asked him about safeguards against fraudulent changes. He assured me that everything was locked and final, but his tone carried an unspoken warning. It wouldn't stop someone from trying. That was all I needed to hear. One evening, I casually suggested to Ethan that Mom should start organizing her personal letters and financial files, so nothing gets lost. He eagerly volunteered to help, exactly as I hoped. The next night, I set the trap. While Ethan sat with Mom in the living room, I slipped the recorder into the desk drawer where the will copy was hidden. Then I waited. Hours later, when the house was quiet, I heard footsteps again. Soft, steady, deliberate. My heart hammered as I lay still in bed, counting each creak of the floorboards. Then came the faint scrape of the study chair, the rustle of papers. He was doing it. I forced myself to stay put until morning, even though every nerve in me wanted to burst in and catch him. When I finally retrieved the recorder, my hands shook. I pressed play. At first, just silence. Then, Ethan's voice, low and muttering, change the percentages. She'll never know. Has to look natural. If she trusts me, I'll get it all. My blood turned to fire. I had him. And soon, the whole world would see him for what he really was. Would you already reveal the recording to your mother now? Or wait until Ethan fully exposes himself with more lies? The following morning, I couldn't look at Ethan the same way. Every smile he flashed, every casual joke he tossed out, it all reeked of performance. Because now I knew the truth. His apology wasn't just fake, it was calculated. And I had his own voice admitting it. Still, I played my role. At breakfast, Mom hummed happily while Ethan served her coffee, making a show of how helpful he was. He glanced at me, perhaps expecting irritation. Instead, I smiled sweetly. You've really changed, Ethan. It's good to see his grin widened, but behind it, I caught the flicker of smugness. He thought he was winning. That day, he spent hours with Mom going through photo albums and old letters, painting himself as the dutiful son. I watched from the sidelines, waiting, because I knew, sooner or later, his mask would crack. And I didn't have to wait long. Later that evening, when Mom had gone to bed, Ethan cornered me in the hallway. His voice was lower, sharper. "You've been quiet lately? Not planning anything, are you?" I feigned confusion. "Planning? About what?" "Don't play dumb," he snapped, then quickly softened his tone. "Look, I just don't want us to ruin this peace we've found." I tilted my head, studying him. The cracks were showing. His paranoia was slipping through the charm. Over the next few days, he grew bolder and sloppier. He started making little jabs at me in front of Mom, subtle digs disguised as jokes. "You know, Mom, some people don't understand responsibility the way we do. But I'm glad I'm here to help you with these important papers." I bit my tongue, but inside I was smiling. He was overplaying his hand. The breaking point came one rainy afternoon. Mom had dozed off on the couch, and Ethan, thinking she couldn't hear, muttered under his breath while flipping through her financial folder. "Finally, all of this will be mine." What he didn't realize was that Mom wasn't fully asleep. Her eyes fluttered slightly, and I saw her brow crease. For the first time, doubt had entered her mind. That evening, she asked me quietly in the kitchen, "Do you think Ethan has really changed?" The question caught me off guard. For weeks, she had defended him, clung to his apology like a lifeline. Now she was wavering. I chose my words carefully. "I want to believe he has, Mom. But sometimes, people say sorry for the wrong reasons." Her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't say more, but I could tell something inside her had shifted. And Ethan, oblivious, continued spinning his web, unaware that it was beginning to unravel. The mask he wore so carefully was slipping, and once it fell, there would be no saving him. "Would you reveal Ethan's muttered words to your mother now, or let him dig his own grave a little deeper?" The storm outside rattled the windows, but it was nothing compared to the storm brewing inside the house. For days, Ethan had been circling like a vulture. He followed Mom into her study, hovered while she reviewed her documents, and spoke with a syrupy sweetness that made my skin crawl. Every word felt rehearsed. Every smile was hollow. But tonight, everything cracked open. We were sitting in the living room after dinner, the rain pounding against the roof. Mom, wrapped in her shawl, was reviewing some papers when Ethan leaned forward with a little too much urgency. "Mom," he said, his tone falsely gentle, "don't you think it's best if we finalize the estate matter soon? You know, before things get harder." The words hung in the air like poison. Mom's face stiffened. She didn't speak immediately, and the silence stretched long enough for Ethan to shift nervously in his seat. I watched carefully, waiting. Finally, Mom said softly, "Ethan, why the rush?" He faltered. For a split second, the mask slipped entirely, his voice hardened, impatient. "Because we can't keep waiting. You know this estate needs direction, and I'm the one best suited to handle it. Not." His eyes flicked toward me, and his jaw tightened. "Not someone who doesn't understand responsibility." It was the first time he had openly dismissed me in front of her. The room grew heavy. Mom's eyes narrowed, and I could see the sting of disappointment flicker across her face. She didn't respond right away, but her silence spoke volumes. Sensing he had gone too far, Ethan quickly backpedaled. "I'm sorry, that came out wrong. I want to protect the family's legacy. That's all." But Mom didn't look convinced. After she excused herself for the night, Ethan turned on me the moment the door clicked shut. His charm evaporated, replaced by venom. "I don't know what you're doing, but you'd better stop." "Do you understand me?" I raised an eyebrow. "Doing? You're unraveling all on your own, Ethan. I don't have to lift a finger." His nostrils flared, and for the first time, I saw pure desperation in his eyes. This wasn't just about money. This was about control, about his need to be the favored one again, no matter the cost. That night, as I lay awake listening to the rain, I knew we had reached the breaking point. Ethan could no longer maintain his act, and Mom's doubts had taken root. The time for quiet observation was ending. Soon, it would be time to set the trap, and when the trap closed, there would be no escape. If you were in my place, would you expose Ethan to your mother right now, or wait and let him sabotage himself further? The decision was made. If Ethan wanted to play games with lies and manipulation, then I would let him step right into his own downfall. I started small. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table with Mom, sipping tea as she went through her letters. Casually, I said, "It's nice that Ethan is so eager to help with the estate. Almost too eager, don't you think?" Her eyes flicked up briefly, searching my face. I didn't push further. Seeds take time to grow. Later that day, I carefully crafted my plan. I left one of Mom's financial folders out in plain sight on the desk. An empty folder, of course, but it looked official enough. Then I waited. Ethan couldn't resist. I watched from the hallway as he snuck into the study when he thought no one was around. He opened the folder, rifled through it, his face tightening when he found nothing inside. That flicker of frustration was all I needed to confirm what I already knew. His apology had never been about reconciliation. It was about possession. Step one of the trap was complete. Next, I confided in Mom. Not a direct accusation, but subtle hints. "I know Ethan says he wants to protect the family, but sometimes it feels like his timing is more about himself than about you." She didn't say much, only nodded, but I could tell she was listening. Her fingers tapped against the armrest, thoughtful. The real test came 2 nights later. Over dinner, I accidentally mentioned that Mom had left her real estate documents in the bottom drawer of her study desk. I said it casually, as though it were nothing, then quickly changed the subject. It was bait. That night, while the house slept, I left my door slightly cracked. Sure enough, footsteps crept down the hallway. Slow, deliberate, careful not to wake anyone. I slipped from my bed and followed silently. There he was, Ethan, kneeling by Mom's desk, rummaging through drawers with frantic energy. His hands shook as he opened one after another, searching for what he thought would be the golden ticket to his inheritance. But instead of real documents, he found exactly what I'd planted, A letter sealed in an envelope, written in Mom's handwriting. Inside were simple words: trust is more valuable than gold. Break it, and you lose both. I watched from the shadows as his face twisted with rage. He slammed the drawer shut, muttering curses under his breath. It was working. The mask was cracking. By the time I slipped back into my room, my heart was pounding with adrenaline. The trap was set, and Ethan had walked right into it. All that remained was to make sure Mom saw his true face when it mattered most. And when she did, there would be no forgiveness left to give. Would you have confronted Ethan directly at this point, or let him dig his own grave a little deeper like I did? The morning after Ethan's midnight raid, I woke with a clear mind. The waiting was over. It was time for the truth to be seen. Not whispered, not suspected, but undeniable. I had everything ready. The letter Mom had written, my own observations, and, most importantly, Ethan's arrogance. It was a Sunday afternoon when I invited both him and Mom into the living room. The air felt heavy, the kind of silence that precedes a storm. Ethan slouched in the chair across from me, confidence painted on his face. He thought he had already won, that his charm had softened Mom completely. Mom, I began, voice steady but laced with emotion. I need to talk about something important. About Ethan's apology. Her brows knitted together, but she didn't interrupt. Ethan, on the other hand, chuckled. Oh, here we go again. You just can't stand it, can you? That Mom and I are close again. I ignored his jab. Last night, I saw you in the study, Ethan. You weren't reminiscing or helping Mom organize. You were searching, digging through her drawers, looking for something you could use. His smile faltered for just a second before he forced it back. You're imagining things. I pulled the envelope from my pocket and set it on the coffee table. Then explain this. His face drained of color. Mom leaned forward, curiosity lighting her eyes. She recognized her own handwriting instantly. That's mine, she said softly, opening it. Her gaze swept over the words, and for a moment her lips trembled. Then she looked at Ethan, not with the warmth of a forgiving mother, but with the piercing disappointment of someone betrayed. You went through my private things, she said. Not a question. A statement. Ethan shifted in his seat. I was just trying to make sure everything was safe. I don't want anyone taking advantage of you. I couldn't stop the bitter laugh that escaped me. Safe? You mean safe for you? You weren't protecting her, Ethan. You were trying to control her. The timing of your apology, your sudden concern, it wasn't about love. It was about money. About the inheritance. His mask crumbled then. The anger he'd been holding back exploded. Why shouldn't it be mine? He snapped. I'm the oldest. I'm the one who carried the family name, who took the risks while you sat back and did nothing. Why should you get anything when I deserve it all? The room went cold. Mom's expression hardened in a way I'd never seen before. You may be my son, she said, her voice quiet but sharp, but you've shown me exactly who you are, and it breaks my heart. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but the weight of her words silenced him. His advantage, his lies, his carefully constructed facade, all shattered. The truth was no longer hidden. And this time, there would be no way back for him. If you were in the mother's place, would you forgive Ethan? Or cut him off completely after this betrayal? The silence after Ethan's outburst lingered like smoke in the air. He sat stiffly, fists clenched, eyes burning with resentment. But he had already lost. His words had betrayed him far more effectively than anything I could have uncovered. Mom set the letter down carefully, almost reverently, before looking at me. Her hand reached for mine, fingers trembling but strong. Thank you, she whispered, for protecting me. For showing me the truth. I squeezed her hand, swallowing the lump in my throat. Years of doubt, of wondering if I was foolish to hold on to hope, seemed to dissolve in that single moment. Ethan pushed back his chair suddenly, the legs scraping against the floor. This isn't over, he growled. His voice no longer carried the charm he once wielded like a weapon. It was raw, desperate, stripped of control. You'll regret crossing me. I stood too, facing him squarely. No, Ethan. I regret ever giving you the chance to hurt us again. But that ends today. For the first time, he looked small, deflated, like the apology he had wrapped himself in had crumbled, leaving nothing but greed and anger exposed. Mom rose slowly. Her frail figure seemed taller somehow, stronger as she turned to him. Ethan, I loved you more than you will ever know. I forgave you more times than I should have. But love is not a weapon, and forgiveness is not a game. You've lost my trust, and no inheritance in the world can buy it back. The finality in her words silenced him. He looked at her, then at me, and for the briefest moment I saw panic flash in his eyes. Not because he lost money, but because he realized he had lost us, truly, this time. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The echo of it rattled the walls, but the house felt lighter without him inside. For the first time in years, Mom and I sat together in peace. No lies, no shadows, just honesty. The following weeks brought clarity. With legal help, Mom secured her will, ensuring Ethan could no longer manipulate or interfere. She gave generously to charity, to causes close to her heart, and left the rest in my care, not as a prize, but as a responsibility. And Ethan? Word spread quickly. His anger, his arrogance, it turned people away. The same charm he once relied on now rang hollow. He had trapped himself in his own lies, and there was no escaping the consequences. On a quiet evening, I found myself on the porch again, watching the sunset. The air smelled of fresh beginnings. For so long, betrayal had been the weight I carried. But now, there was space for something else. Freedom. Mom joined me, her hand slipping into mine. You did the right thing, she said softly. I smiled, the ache in my chest finally easing. So did you, Mom. You chose the truth. And in that truth, we found our strength. The fake apology had ended in ruin, but for us it marked the start of something real. A future free from lies, a life built on trust. And that, I realized, was the inheritance worth fighting for. Do you think Ethan deserved a second chance after everything? Or was losing it all the only fair ending? Share your decision. I'd love to hear from you.